Chapter 3, Lesson 8, Simple Interest. Simple interest is the additional amount of money that is paid or earned for the use of money. For example, you earn interest on a savings account or you pay interest on a credit card or a loan. The principal amount is the original amount initially borrowed or deposited. The rate is at the percentage rate that you will be paying back or earning additional money. Time is always measured in years, but if you are given months, you divide by 12. The new balance is the principal amount plus the interest earned. This process does look a little bit different because we do use a triangle to determine what numbers will be multiplied together or divided. So I look at the triangle first. On number 1, it says $1,060 is deposited. That is my principal amount. The original amount deposited or borrowed is the principal. So this is the principal. It was deposited into a savings account that earns 4%. This is the rate, but we write it as a decimal. It will be left in the savings account for 3 years. This is our time. We use the triangle because when the numbers are next to each other, we multiply them. Therefore, I'm going to multiply 1,060 times 0.04 times 3. But I'm going to multiply these two numbers together first because I know 4 times 3 is 12. But I need two numbers behind the decimal, so that's going to be 1,200. Therefore, I'm going to have 1,060 times 1,200. Multiply these numbers like I normally do. And since I have two numbers behind my decimal in my problem, I need two numbers behind my decimal in the solution. This is the amount of interest that is earned on the savings account. It is $127.20. But these questions are also asking us for a total balance after interest is earned or paid. You take your original amount of $1,060 and add the $127.20. The total balance after 3 years is $1,187.20. Number 2 is $2,000 is borrowed from a bank charging 6% simple interest for 15 months. And remember we mentioned when it's measured in months, you must divide by 12. I could say that 15 divided by 12 is an improper fraction. If I were going to simplify this, I would divide them both by 3. Therefore, it would be 5 over 4, which would give me 1 1/4 or 1.25. Now, I think we need to go ahead and stick with the 15 over 12. I think if we keep it a consistent process, it will make this a lot easier in the long run. So, let's go ahead and set up our triangle. You have $2,000 borrowed is the principal. We have a rate of 6%. And we have time of 15 months. But remember, it's 15, we will eventually have to divide by 12. You multiply these three numbers together, I'm going to go ahead and just multiply these two and divide by 12 at the end. It's just a little bit easier that way. So then I have $2,000 times 0.06 times 15. It is 0.90, but I'm going to go ahead and just take 0.910. Remember, we've talked about this. A 0 at the end of a number doesn't have any value, so go ahead and take it off to make the multiplication a little bit easier. 9 times 0 is 0, 9 times 0 is 0, 9 times 0 is 0, 9 times 2 is 18. Since I have one number behind the decimal in my problem, I need one number behind my decimal in the solution. But this is not the simple interest that was charged. We still must divide by 12. So I'm going to divide 1,800 by 12. And do 1,800 divided by 12. I recognize those are both even numbers. So what would happen if I went ahead and simplified them or just divide them? I think just dividing would be a little bit easier. So 12 goes into 1,800. 12 goes into 18 once. That gives me 6 left over. That's 60. 12 goes into 65 times. But remember, I still have a 0 left, and 12 goes into 0 times. Therefore, the amount of simple interest being charged on the $2,000 loan at a 6% rate for 15 months is $150. The total amount being borrowed at the end, or to be repaid, is actually the $2,000 plus the amount of interest charged, so they will be paying back $2,150. It does cost money to borrow money. Calculating the principal amount. In a word problem, it usually says initially invested for the principal amount. So for number 3, how much was initially invested if an account earned $1,200 in interest after 4 years with a 6% simple interest rate? The amount initially invested is my principal, which is what we're looking for. You have the rate of 6% as a decimal. You have 4 years is your time, and the interest earned is $1,200. We use the triangle to help us keep things in line so we know when we need to multiply or divide. And remember, we said if they are next to each other, you multiply. If they are on top of each other, you divide. So this would equal $1,200 divided by 600 times 4. And I can solve this. I know that 1,200 will remain the same. You have 6 times 4 is 24, but I have 2 numbers behind the decimal in my problem. I need 2 numbers behind the decimal in my solution. This is a fraction, but remember, it's top in, bottom out. So I can divide 1,200 by 2,400. But remember, we don't actually divide by decimals, so what I do to the outside, I must do to the inside. 24 goes into 1, none, 2, none, but it goes into 125 times. I still need to add the zeros. Therefore, the initial amount invested was $5. $8,000. This one does look or sound a little bit more complicated than just finding the amount of interest earned and the total balance. But if you go back and remember the basic concept of multiplying and dividing fractions and decimals, just follow those procedures and you will have no problem finding success. Calculating time. Number 4, how long would you have to leave $8,000 invested to double your money? If I doubled 8,000, it would be $16,000 if the account has a 10% interest rate. I still need to set up the triangle. The amount of interest is the difference between the amount invested and the total balance. And since the amount invested is $8,000, the total balance after, if I wanted to double my money, is $16,000, the amount of interest to be earned is $8,000. The total of the principal amount was the $8,000. Remember, we're doubling it, so it should be the same. The rate is 10%. How long we are leaving it is what we are looking for. Remember, if they are next to each other, you multiply. If they are on top of each other, you divide. Therefore, this is 8,000 divided by 8,000 times 100. 8,000 divided by 800 equals, I can simplify this first to get 80 over 8. I can divide both of these by 8 to get 10 over 1, or 10 years. I could have divided 8,000 by 800, and I'll show you it's just as simple. If I get 800 going into 8,000, 800 goes into 801, still have a 0 left. I still get the 10 years. So if you prefer to do long division, it will work. If you prefer to simplify fractions, that one will work as well. Let's see if you can do number 5 on your own. Did you get 30 years? You may have gotten stuck trying to figure out how much interest had to be earned to get to a balance of $5,200. But remember, the interest earned is the difference between the balance at the end and the amount that was initially invested. Once you put your numbers into the triangle, you knew that you had to multiply 2,080 by 5% to get 104. The interest earned was $3,120 after we subtracted the 5,200 and the 2,080. Write it as a fraction, and then I just did long division. 3,120 divided by 104 to get 30 years. Other situations that may come up is asking you to calculate the simple interest given the other numbers, or the simple interest rate, actually. So again, I'm just going to use the same triangle so that I know where I need to multiply and where I need to divide. Number 6 says, a local bank is advertising that you can triple your money in 8 years. So I know my time is 8 years. If you invest with them, suppose that you have $1,000 to invest. This is your principal amount. The amount that you initially invest or borrow is the principal. And if it's asking you to triple your money, then how much interest needs to be earned to triple your money? Well, remember, the amount of interest is going to be the difference between your ending balance and your beginning balance. So if my ending balance is $3,000, my beginning is $1,000, then the amount of interest to be earned is going to be $2,000. And we are looking for the rate. And remember, when they are next to each other, you multiply. If they are stacked, you divide. Therefore, you have $2,000 divided by 1,000 times 8. I have 2,000 divided by 8,000. I can simplify this, and I get 2 8. And this should be fairly easy to simplify. You get 1/4, and we know that 1/4 is 25%. So the interest earned on an amount on $1,000 invested to be tripled in 8 years is a 25% interest rate. Make sure that you are reading the questions very carefully and identifying the parts that you know and the parts that you don't know. This is easier to organize when using a triangle. If not, you are welcome to make a list of interest, principal, rate, and time. The formulas to use the interest, principal, rate, and time are also on the front of your note. If you have any questions while you are working, please raise your hand and wait patiently as I walk around the room to help you complete the assignment.